Hello, welcome to March 31st. Today is a study day in preparation for the Act 1 quiz, which I'll put on tonight or tomorrow. I just want to go over a few things. I left out study guide questions for Scene 5 of Act 1. You know, one of the more important scenes. I didn't give you a study guide. I apologize for that. And I've had some questions about the language Shakespeare used, so I will address those as well. I've emailed you some study guide questions. Let me just go over those answers real quick. What are the servants doing at the start of scene 5? Right? They are working hard. They are preparing for the party. They're moving tables to make room for people to dance, and they're complaining about the work they have to do. What are old Capulet and his cousin doing? They're being nostalgic. They're talking about when they were younger. They're kind of arguing about when they were younger. They were arguing about when they were younger. And they're talking about when they crashed parties and stuff, and they let Romeo come in and crash the party because that's what they used to do when they were Romeo's age. What did Romeo notice? Well, of course, he noticed some beautiful woman standing in the distance, and he was talking about how great she was and how beautiful she was, and asked the servant who she was, and that's what Romeo noticed, someone's beauty, if you will. So, who noticed Romeo? We know Tybalt noticed Romeo. And how did this person recognize Romeo? Tybalt recognized his voice. So, Tybalt's got some keen senses, if you wish. That'll come into play later when Mercutio calls him Prince of Cats. And we know how cats have superb reflexes and good hearing. What did Tybalt want to do to Romeo? Remember the line, "Fetch me my rapier, boy"? He wanted to stab and kill Romeo. Why didn't he? Capulet stopped him. Well, what did he promise to do? When he left, right before he exited, he promised to get even with Romeo, right? He would take this intrusion and get revenge for it. Describe Romeo and Juliet's encounter. This is a good one. They meet, they touch hands, they dance around a little bit, they exchange words here and there, they start kissing, and then the nurse breaks them up. That's basically their encounter. How did they feel towards each other before they found out who the other person was? And how did they feel after? Well, I think they were both in love, right? They both fell for each other. And then when they found out who they really were, that they were the children of their enemy, Romeo said, "My life is in my foe's debt." And Juliet said something very similar. And they realized that their life is now tied into each other. So that's kind of interesting. So we have these two realizing they love each other. And we have Tybalt vowing to get even with Romeo. So things are really going to be interesting coming up soon. All right, that's all in scene 5. And I think most of those things I covered in my scene 5 explanation the other day. Let's talk about language. This is written unlike we are used to reading. There's a lot of emotional language. And emotional language is just using words to get across a certain feeling. For instance, when Tybalt is complaining about Romeo, he's using a lot of angry, disgusting language, which we pick up that disgust and we pick up the anger. When Romeo and Juliet meet, we get a lot of beautiful religious imagery, and it shows, their love is holy, if you will. So the emotional language just explains how we should feel, basically. I use the term iambic pentameter when I discuss the prologue. Iambic pentameter is a line with 10 syllables alternating in unstressed and stressed syllables. If you want to know if something is iambic pentameter, just count the syllables. If there are 10 syllables in there, chances are, if it's Shakespeare, it's iambic pentameter. Some characters speak, their whole speech in iambic pentameter. That is saved for people of nobility people of wealth, people who are high class, people who are main characters and important heroes. They speak iambic pentameter. Now, iambic pentameter sometimes rhymes. Okay, people who are nobility, they will speak in rhythm and rhyme. If you look at the prince when he speaks, he often rhymes. You look at Lady Capulet or Lady Montague, they often rhymes. Lady Montague more so, because they are nobility. When Romeo speaks, he rhymes. Right? He's got that rhythm of iambic pentameter and rhyming because he is the main character. He is important. Blank verse is when there is no meter, there is no rhyme. We have just think of it as common language, but there might be 4 lines. That's one sentence, and maybe 4 or 5 syllables in each line, or it might be one line with 80 syllables. It is just a block of words. Is blank verse. Shakespeare uses that for uneducated characters. Blank verse is for the comic figures. Blank verse is people who really aren't that important. It's like Shakespeare didn't spend a lot of time on what they were going to say, making it poetic. So that's kind of like the language breakdown for Shakespeare a little bit. Sorry if I did not explain that well when I talked about the prologue. Look over all your study guides. Look over the previous quizzes. I'll put the Act 1 quiz up later. You'll do well with it.